Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to yet another episode of the Halal Food Podcast. Today we've got the pleasure and we are pleased to welcome somebody who is innovative, who is manufacturing slaughter equipment. So I'm going to hand over to him to introduce himself before we start.
I can. Well, thank you very much for having me. My name is Michel Schmidt. I am the owner of Dutch Vision Solutions, which is a company that develops innovative machinery for, in my case, poultry slaughterhouses.
Okay, so you mentioned Dutch Vision Solution. When was it formed, and what is the brain behind? Why did you feel the need to form such a company?
Well, I've been working in the poultry industry now for 35 years.
Wow.
And in the first 20 years, I was working for one of the major suppliers in the poultry business. So you have Marel, you have Bader, mine, and I was working for Systemate Numafa or Dapec for the North American audience.
Yeah.
When Systemate was taken over by mine, the company changed so much that I was no longer feeling comfortable working in an organization of that size.
Yeah.
That has more to do with me than with that organization, obviously. Many rules which I, found ridiculous and so on and so forth from where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
So when mine decided in 2008, 2009, that they were going to eliminate Systemate Numafa, I thought, well, this is the perfect opportunity for me to start my own business. And I started my business with cameras, very simple, rudimentary cameras that can do things that the normal counting machines that we have in our lines at various positions simply could not do.
Okay.
So I was one of the first that actually incorporated a simple camera in order to count live birds.
Okay.
Which is very important as having a high accuracy on your count.
Yeah.
Which is less than 0.5% off with a camera. Where when you have a mechanical device, there's always something going on. A crooked shackle, a one-legged bird, or the movement of the bird at that particular moment that you're actually trying to count it. So the camera was quite inventive in its way, and this is now 15 years ago when I started with the cameras.
Yeah.
That it was a good idea at the time. Well, you can see this now because all the other suppliers are doing similar things at even a higher grading level than I am willing to do. And from my perspective, that was, you have so many big companies that are supplying the poultry processing businesses. But they're all going for the same, let's say 10, 25% of the big companies. And I'm talking about the Two Sisters in the UK, or I'm talking about Tyson in America, or, well, you name them, yes? And everybody is fighting over that 25%. And that means that if you're looking at, well, the Middle East, for example, or Europe, there is a vast majority of slaughterhouses which basically cannot pay the prices that Marel, Bader, and mine are asking for their equipment. So for me, that was an opportunity to step in and see, okay, what can I do? Where can I supply the niche market with equipment that they need without the financial hazard of a big company? Like if you're buying an eviscerating machine from any of the big companies, you have to have very, very deep pockets. And in order to pay off that machine, the quantities that you have to produce are vast. And therefore, when when I entered the market, I was looking for the 75%.
Yeah.
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 Let me do the niche market. If you
Mhm.
have a specific request as a supplier of poultry products that you would like to cut in a certain way,
Yeah.
for me, it's beneficial to see if I can make that cut happen for you. Because if it works for you, it probably is going to work for another 30% in the market that sees what that particular client is doing
Yeah.
and they want to step in there as well. For me, my size of company,
Yeah.
that is sufficient. I can make my living and I can develop more machinery
Yeah.
throughout the time. Yes, because
So
I'm very small.
yeah, so Michel, you mentioned something very, very critical. So you said you were one of the few inventors of camera systems that counted the number of breasts on the line. Now that brings me to halal. So with the way that vision works, I think the halal market could utilize your skills in developing systems that can actually monitor halal compliance on the line. So, for instance, the cut of the line, the cut of the neck must be a frontal cut. It shouldn't be a dorsal cut or a side cut. Do you have any cameras, or do you, if there are no cameras now, but do you think you could develop cameras that could monitor the accuracy of the cut and also the level of movement after cutting? So many Muslims want to see what level of movement is still in the animal after cutting. So one, do you think you can develop something that can measure or that can monitor the accuracy of the halal cut and also just monitor post-cut movements in the poultry? Do you think it's possible?
Yes. We've discussed this earlier. I've developed last year a cutting device
Okay.
for
Yeah,
halal slaughter.
you discussed it with me. Yeah.
And if you place a camera on that system, you
Yeah.
can actually pinpoint on what the slaughterman is doing. You can visualize that.
Okay.
Yes. Now, if you say, I have a few regions of interest, ROIs, as we specify in how we look at what we are trying to catch. So
Yeah.
there is if you want a frontal cut, then the slaughterman must have the head in a certain way. If he doesn't do that, then you cannot guarantee that frontal cut.
Correct.
And this is what you can look at. Yes. Does the slaughterman actually grab the head in a way that is only possible to make the frontal cut? And that camera can be placed on the killing machine, for example.
Yeah.
And the killing machine itself operates exactly like a knife would. But in this case, we use a rotating knife.
Mhm.
And it's balanced from the line. The slaughterman has a handle like he has a grip on a knife.
Okay.
And he must operate the blade. So when the blade rotates, it's endless. And having an endless blade means that you can cut more accurately without less bluntness of your knife after a certain amount of time. So what you can do then is, if you place this camera on that machine at the point where the cut is actually going to be made, you can see if that slaughterman has the head in the proper position. Yes. And
Yeah.
therefore you can say that head is in the proper position. It must have been cut correctly. If you go to the second part of your question, can you now
Monitor.
monitor the further process of the bleeding?
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of putting up a camera.
Okay.
Because if the movement is there, the camera will notice this. So basically, what you can do is you can use a movement operating device. If there is no movement, there's no video.
Yeah.
For example, yes, that is the
Yeah. I
simplest.
get it.
That
I
is the
get it.
simplest.
Yeah.
So if you see the movement, then you can guarantee that after the kill cut is made, you can see the birds for a period of time have that movement.
Yeah.
You have to take into considerations that if a good kill cut has been made, you will have about, well, let's say from the moment you make that cut until, let's say, 15 seconds later, you will have to have that camera there in order to see the movement.
Yeah.
If you go past 25 seconds, so much blood has left the body, the bird becomes unconscious, and therefore movement stops.
Yeah.
Yes, so there's so much blood left then that it's comatized, and when you're comatized, you're not likely to move. But yeah, that is possible. Yeah.
Okay, okay. So now I know you've discussed your cutting, your new innovation in terms of the knife with me in the past. Now, many Muslims or many Muslim consumers are uncomfortable with the use of rotary blade, which is mechanical blade in abattoir. So nobody operates, well, you switch it on, the blade keeps rotating and the animals pass through, their necks are cut. Now, my question to you is, your system, will it be operating on its own or will it involve some human operation? If it does involve some human operation, I'm sure many Muslims will favor that in contrast to the conventional mechanical slaughter.
Yes. Well, it's not a killing machine as you described in your first part.
Okay.
If there is no slaughterman, there's
Yeah.
no slaughtering. So they have to hold the knife, the
Okay.
rotating. They have to hold it,
Yeah.
and by holding the handle, the knife rotates. Yes,
Yeah.
and they can move that blade forward, backward,
Backwards. Yeah.
upwards, downwards. They can do with that blade, with of course within limits of the machine. They
Yeah.
can mimic what they are used to do with a normal blade.
Okay.
Yes.
Interesting.
So if the slaughterman is not there, none of the chickens will be slaughtered. So
No,
if the slaughterman is
yeah.
there and
Yeah.
they hold the knife, they
Yeah.
grab the head, and they can say the prayer
Yeah.
and cut that particular bird. Yes.
I think
And
yeah, go on.
the reason why I have developed this machine is that here in Europe, labor is extremely difficult to come by.
Yeah.
And if you are in a niche market like halal cutting, then or halal, well, not halal cutting, but halal processing, one of the biggest problems that processors are looking at is labor sickness.
Yeah.
Labor sickness
Mhm.
comes from tennis elbows because of the repetitive motion that the slaughtermen are making.
Yeah.
So the question was, can I develop something where we take away the strain on the slaughterman's elbow and wrists while they can still perform whatever they were doing prior to this change? So that was the reason why I developed this machine as is. Yes. And like you say, many people have a reluctance of a rotating blade.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if you're looking at the growth of the Muslim population
Yeah.
within Europe, you cannot, by no means, slaughter the amount of chicken needed to feed or lamb or beef, but you by no way can meet the requirements or the demands of the halal population without some sort of automation. I mean,
Correct.
if your slaughterman doesn't come in to work in the morning, your whole process stops.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
true. Yeah.
So
Now
it
I've got,
is.
yeah. Go on.
It is just we are. I'm trying to come up with solutions that are so close to what the Muslim slaughtermen are used to doing
Yeah.
that it should, I hope, should become more easy to adapt. because of the growing population that needs that particular kind of slaughter.
Yeah.
So
So I've got two further questions for you, Michel. First of all, how easy is it to incorporate your knife into an existing abattoir? That is, for instance, using mechanical slaughter, or that is using hand slaughter. If they want to get rid of the mechanical slaughter and install your system, how complex do they need to change so many things in the abattoir? Or is it just a simple matter of, look, this is the station, we put the knife in there?
it's exactly that. Most slaughterhouses have a set number of slaughtermen working on the line,
Yeah,
depending on the line speed. But let's say for this example, you have 4 slaughtermen slaughtering your chickens here, your poultry.
yeah,
So you need 4 simple machines that you will hang on the line, set up to the desired height for the length of that particular slaughterman, in combination with where the heads are,
yeah.
and you're great to go. If you don't want to use that machine for whatever reason, yes, don't use it. It automatically comes out of where it needs to be, and you will have about a foot length between the blade and where your chickens are. Now, if you want to or have to, that's also possible. If it's a machine, it will break down at one point. Yes.
Yeah.
So now you are faced, if that happens, you're faced with another problem, because you still need to slaughter your animals.
Correct.
But if this happens, the slaughtermen are not side by side very narrowly. They have about, I don't know,
Spacing.
let's say 3 to 4 foot distance in between.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if you have the machines hanging at 3 to 4 feet distance, and one of the machines will not work for whatever reason, that slaughterman can take his knife and start slaughter exactly the way he did before the machine stopped working, without any interference on your slaughtering process.
Now, my next question to you, Michel, is how do you sharpen the knife of your system? Do you have to dismantle it at the end of the day, or is it automatically sharpened?
Well, the automatic sharpening is possible.
Okay. Yeah.
In the machines that we have now, we have not incorporated this.
Okay. Okay.
And the reason for it is basically goes back to the question previous to this one. If you're doing it with a blade, with your normal knife, yes, you have a steel or a sharpening stone nearby, because you have to keep your knife up to specs in order to do your work.
Correct.
So what you can do is you can use the steel and just push the steel up against the blade, the rotating blade, and you have done exactly the same as you would have done with a knife. Or if you would like to do so with a whetstone, you can do the same thing while it is running. That's not the problem. You can do this. By the end of the day, it is advised to take off the blade, replace it with a sharpened blade for the next day, and the next day sharpen the blade that you took out from the previous day. So by the end of that next production day, you have another fresh knife to start your production. So that is not different than any other position in the slaughtering process.
Yeah. Thank you very much. That you've taken your time to explain that. So now we've talked a bit about knife. I want us to move to stunning of chicken. Now, we know the conventional water bath stunning has got a number of welfare issues. So the first one is the fact that the animals are inverted and shackled. That has got its own problem, because the animals are hanging without any support. That can be very stressful. We also know that at the entry to the water bath, if it's wet and not isolated, the animal can receive a pre-stun shock. We also know that when the animals or when the birds enter into the water bath, depending on the resistance of the bird, it can receive different currents. So from halal perspective, that is a big concern, because if different chicken receive different currents, it's possible that, first of all, some of them will be inefficiently stunned. Secondly, the bigger ones, the bigger ones may be with high resistance, maybe efficiently stunned. The smaller ones with less resistance may be stunned to death. They may be stunned to death. From halal perspective, these are big concern concerning welfare and halal compliance. What is your system? Can your system address these problems? So first of all, inversion and shackling. Stressful is very stressful because the birds are not supported. Secondly, pre-stun shocks. When they go into the water bath stand, and they can be stunned, or no, not stunned, but they can receive a painful electric shock. And when they go in there, they can be killed, or due to different level of voltage, they can be killed, or they may not be stunned properly. What assurance can your system, the Dutch Vision Solution stunning system, give that is better than conventional stunning, water bath stunning?
Well, you're asking a lot of questions in one question.
Yeah,
So
break it down.
let me start with
down.
the first one, and that is shackling.
Yeah,
If you look at shackles in slaughter lines, they are not similar. They are exactly the same as the ones that they used 30 years ago.
yeah,
Only 30 years ago, the average weight of a bird was almost
smaller.
half
Yeah,
of what we are doing now. So the first problem is shackling. What you need to do is you need to have a shackle where your bird fits. And the benefit of having a shackle where the birds really fits is that the people that are hanging the birds do not have to use excess force
yeah,
to pull the birds down into the shackle where they need to be. What needs to happen is you shackle your bird, let go of the legs, and the bird should sink into that shackle all by its own weight. That's all what you need to do. But then you have the inversion of that bird. Well, you don't need, well, the inversion is there because you need the legs for positioning the bird in a way.
yeah.
But you don't need to have it upside down the entire time. One of your colleagues, Steve Watton, gave me a research project that they did in the 80s, where they are actually looking at a belt-supported chicken going into the water bath.
Yeah, a conveyor belt system, isn't it?
Exactly. And the conveyor belt was there to relieve the stress from the bird because it's actually resting on its breast.
Correct.
Yes. So what you will see then is no wing flapping because the bird is calm. It doesn't have any excess strain on its ankles because there's no weight.
Yeah.
There's no squeezing. Yes. So the chicken is not intended to pick at its feet to solve the discomfort that he has.
Mm-hmm.
So that is the part of inversion. Yes. If you tackle that with the system that we've developed, what we did is we make a carousel kind of hanging station, several depending on how many shackle people there are.
Yeah.
And if you use that semi carousel shape,
yeah,
you can guarantee that from the first moment of shackling, the position furthest away from your stunning machine, is never exceeding 30 seconds. Never, ever, at any speed.
Oh.
So if you're doing 15,000 birds an hour, the time from the first moment of shackling until the stunner is never going to be exceeding 28 seconds.
Okay.
That's the first thing. And during that 28 seconds, or during that first shackling moment, we are supporting the bird all the way up to the stunning device.
Okay.
Stunning device itself is divided in two shafts. The first one is the positioning shaft, and the second shaft is the actual stunning shaft. Because what we need to do is we need to position the bird under its trolley. Let's say it's a 6-inch line.
Yeah.
The birds are big and they're very close to one another. So we need to make a little shape, a little bit more space for the shape of the chicken. So from the 6-inch line, we pull the birds out until 8-inch. We fold the wings, find the head, lower the device that was folding the wings, and now the wings are like this, properly, like you would like to do.
Yeah.
And the head is in a V shape, exactly centered under its trolley. The second part is now opening a clamp device.
Yeah.
And the clamp device has a mass and a current part, yes?
Yeah.
And at the moment it closes, the current is flowing. Now, what you will see is that we can now stun every single piece of poultry going through the machine according to whatever legislation says. So if you're looking at here in Europe with the 1099 regulation, they want a minimum of 240 milliamps in order to render unconsciousness for the bird during a period of 60 seconds.
Yeah.
And why do we have the 60 seconds? Now we all have to go back all the way to the point where the killing is done. From the last killing machine, from the last killing person, plus 30 seconds is where you need to be. Before the comatized bird is there,
yeah.
You go 30 seconds back. That will be the last slaughterman person. The other ones will be for him upstream of the line. That's where the 30 seconds is coming from. But we can do this on every single bird. Well, no, I'm lying. It is a machine, so I cannot guarantee 100%. Yes, I'll get back to that in a minute.
It's very close to 100%.
It's very close to 100%.
Yeah.
So what you will see is now we are collecting the data while the bird is being stunned over the time period that it is stunned. So I can collect the exact measurements in milliamps during the time. Did I get the 240 milliamps?
Yeah.
If yes, the bird is properly stunned. If no, I have to do something with it because I need to guarantee that at the time of killing, the bird is actually stunned.
Yeah.
From an animal welfare point of view, you do not want to take off the bird from the shackle, reshackle it again, and let it go through the entire process. Because it's not necessary. As the data is there, I now know which chicken was or was not properly stunned according to whatever legislation is there.
Yeah.
So now I can select those birds mechanically and separate them from the ones that were stunned correctly.
Yeah.
Yes. So right behind the stunner machine, we have a selecting machine. And if the bird is stunned correctly, I will push it away.
Yeah.
Yes. And if the bird is not stunned correctly, I don't want to startle it, so I'm not going to touch it. I'm not going to move it. It just stays where it is. And now I have divided 2 paths for the bird. And if I continue with a water bath behind that division device, I have now, let's say 99% of the birds going behind the water bath, and 1% of the bird is going into the water bath. Yes?
Yeah.
Now I have created a smart device out of a stupid device. Because the water bath, you know, is based on average. So if you have 10 birds in the water bath and you need 200 milliamps as a minimum requirement, the water bath has 2 milliamps when the first bird enters.
Yeah.
It has 1 milliamp each if two birds enter, and so on and so forth, until you have 10 birds into the water bath. And then hopefully
Yeah.
each bird will get 200 milliamps, which they do not. We know this.
Yeah.
But now I have a water bath, which I tell one bird is coming. So your water bath panel can now be set to 200 milliamps or 210 or 220, what you require. If, for instance, 5 birds later, the second bird enters the water bath, I know that because my system is taking the log data.
Yeah.
And now I'm saying to that water bath, you have to go up from 200 to 400 milliamps.
Okay.
Yes. So now the probability, because this is mathematics, the probability that those two birds are not correctly stunned are close to nil.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if the first bird leaves after 10 shekels, I know. So then I can drop the 400 milliamps back to 200 milliamps. So now I'm controlling what used to be a dumb and ignorant water bath to a smart water bath, because I can tell it what to do at any given time. And as long as the water bath isn't fully used,
Yeah.
yes, it remains a relatively smart water bath. But it will do only the limited percentage of birds that we were either missing with our device due to the size of the bird. Yes, sometimes very small birds are hanged. They shouldn't have hanged, but they are there. Small birds, very small birds, in comparison to the lot, will not be stunned because I cannot find the head. My machine is too low for that small average. Or it's just an ignorant bird and he did not want to keep his head exactly where I wanted to be. So there is a small percentage. It's around 1.5% of the birds that will go through the water bath. But when the birds come together again, virtually all the birds, and I'm talking about 99.67% of all the birds are alive, which is very important.
Yeah. For
And
halal.
how do I know that? That is due to the amount of milliamps that I'm using. Yes, I can stun to kill.
Yeah.
If I stun to kill, my amperage needs to go up because the voltage has nothing to do with your quality of stun. It is the amperage that is making it either unconscious or not movable because of the current constricting its limbs, basically. Like if you touch a live wire in your house, immediately you're doing this, not because you're smart and you want to pull your hand away. No, that is the current making your movement because of the electrical current. So what you will see is that you will have a virtual 100% stunned birds, and they are alive. And I can guarantee this because of the amount of milliamps that I'm using.
Yeah.
We've been doing so many tests with so many birds that weight-wise, the variation in resistance of the bird, believe it or not, is non-existent. If I have a 2-pound bird, or I have a 3-pound bird, or if I have a 4-pound bird, the resistance of all these birds are around 550 ohm.
Okay.
All of them.
Okay.
Yes. Now, we have gone up to 300 milliamps, and the birds are still alive. The only thing that happens is that the time that they remain unconscious, because of the epileptic insult that we induce in their brains, is getting a little bit longer. Which means that if you have a different layout where you cannot exactly do what I prefer, you can still use the machine because the time that we can render unconsciousness is extended if we go up in the amount of milliamps. But again, there is a limit, because if I'm going, let's say, over 425, 430 milliamps, for each bird, the chance that many of the birds will die is there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there is
Yeah.
that.
You know what, Michel? We've discussed two very, very important innovations or technology that I believe the Muslim community will be willing to speak to you about. They will be willing to listen to more and also see it in practice. So what I'm going to do is this podcast, I will share it with people in the Middle East, people who make regulations about halal meat production, so that hopefully they will come back to you to ask
Mhm.
further questions. So my next question to you is, if anybody, we've just got around 3 minutes to go. If somebody has got a question for you, or if somebody wants to know more about your innovations, where can they go? Do you have a website they can go, or can they contact you? How will people get in touch with you?
Well, the best way probably is going to be using the website
Okay.
www.poultry.vision.
Yeah.
They can find me on LinkedIn if they want to get my information there. They can call me, they can WhatsApp me, they can email me, and I will be able to answer their questions if they have any.
Nice one. It's been an absolute pleasure. So, what things are in your mind? What ideas are in your mind going forward? Have you got any plans doing anything in the red meat, or you rather focus on poultry for the future?
Well, poultry is my thing.
Yeah,
Yes, that is just what I do because
yeah,
I have a knack for it, so to speak.
yeah.
But we have different standard devices for rabbit meat, for example.
Okay.
Um, if you go into the rural areas of Africa and you need a standard device for your sheep or for we have those. Yes,
For developing countries,
yes.
I would like to
It's
speak.
just this.
Yeah, I would like to speak to you off camera about it. I think we need to catch up on that,
Okay, no problem.
because I have some NGOs that are working in Africa. They want to improve on handling and other slaughter processes. So I'll speak to you later on about that.
No problem. You're welcome.
Thank you very much, Michel. It's been an absolute pleasure. I hope when I invite you next time, you'll be back again to clarify a few things.
Definitely, I will. I mean, I'm into a very long list of people. You had last May Temple Grandin, one of my beacons, so to speak, on how to treat animals.
Yeah.
Yes, much of what I do or have done has has been related to
Oh,
the
nice,
work of Temple Grandin.
nice,
Yes,
nice.
and not if you look at it, I don't know if there's time. Nothing what she is saying is extraordinary. It is just plain simple.
Yeah,
If you are a good human being, there is no need to abuse animals because
absolutely.
it's not to your beneficial. It doesn't benefit you.
Yeah.
So the better you treat your animals, the better quality of meat you're getting from it.
That's a very good
Yes.
point. That's a good point. Yeah. That's a very good
And
point.
if you get and if you can increase your profitability by
Yeah.
being kind, there
Yeah.
is no reason not to do it. It is just education. Like Temple Grandin says so many times, you can have the best possible equipment.
Yeah.
But if you don't have the right attitude in the people that are working with that equipment, the equipment is useless. So you need to train your personnel. That I will leave it with that.
Yeah.
It was my absolute pleasure to join you here, Ewald. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very
And
much.
I would love to be back if you invite me again.
I'll do that. I'll do that. Thank you very much. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Cheers.